All right. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Sagal. I'm here with Yanina Sheikh, good coaching friend and colleague for more than a year now. And she is a holistic health therapist and life coach. And I myself am a certified life and mental fitness coach. And I've been working in the field of human development for several decades now. I started with my PhD in personality and social psychology and taught courses for several years in psychology. Then I trained as a life coach and more recently as a positive intelligence coach or mental fitness coach. And in my work, I use tapping a lot when I coach with people, and I love it as a modality. And I really see a good fit for working with it in positive intelligence. And I just want to hear a little bit from you, Yanina, about your background.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. As you already said, I'm a holistic health therapist. I'm also a life coach, as you are. I combine a variety of different modalities to help my clients break free from anxiety, from fear, from insecurities. This topic is very close to home. That's the topic I've been struggling with for many years. So now I'm even more passionate about helping others breaking free from that too. And as you also said, I love using EFT tapping. It's one of my favorite modalities. And yeah, I'm really excited about talking with you about it, especially in reference to the positive intelligence program, which I also had the pleasure of receiving from you. So yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
super happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a great group of ladies, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of insights.
So I want to spend a little bit of time. I'm just going to go into screen share and talk about what tapping is and how to do it and how it particularly applies to positive intelligence. Okay, so we're going to talk about tapping for mental fitness. Using EFT to clear your saboteurs. And let's just start by talking about what is tapping. So for those of you who are not familiar, it's an emotional freedom technique or EFT, and it uses meridians, and it basically uses the idea of acupuncture, but instead of using needles, it's an acupressure technique, and it's tapping into this thousands of year old knowledge set for health and well-being from the Chinese and from the Western civilization, and it's recently been brought into this modality where there's 8 meridians. So Gary Craig standardized it instead of using all of the meridians on the body. There's 8 that activate the different meridian channels, and that has meant that we can all use this same recipe. And so people have started to do that and do research on it. And there's a significant body of research that also shows how powerful it is, at least as powerful as taking tablets and things like that in its effect side. So there's evidence for its use on things like fibromyalgia, PTSD, weight loss. And I just give a couple of websites if you're interested in looking more at that data. Do you have anything to add?
No, that really nicely sums it up. Very easy technique. We're gonna speak about that a bit more, I think. No, wonderful.
So the process itself, it uses the that recipe of meridian points. It's in a certain order. Most people use the same order, but it doesn't matter which order you use. And the meridians that you use are the eyebrow point, the side of the eye, under the nose, the chin point, and there's a collarbone point, which is just beneath the bone, about an inch beneath the bone there, under the arm, which is about where the bra strap is for women, and then the top of the head. And then there's also a setup statement, which is on the karate chop point, which is also meridian, and that's just used at the beginning of the round of tapping. And in terms of activating the meridians, there's really no wrong way to do it. So as an acupressure technique, it's called tapping, but if you're uncomfortable with tapping, you can just kind of rub or press. And you can do it with many fingers or one finger, and you can do both sides or one side. It doesn't matter. Doing any of those will activate the meridian on both sides of the body. And so that's the actual physical mode of it, but also in terms of stream of consciousness. So as we do the tapping, we're speaking, and people are worried about doing the tapping right, but they're also worried about whether am I saying the right thing? And once again, you really can't go wrong there either. You say whatever comes to mind. So the best is when it's meaningful for you, when the words are meaningful for you, and you can keep it very simple and just say the same word over and over again, or you can talk metaphorically, or describe shapes and colors, as long as it's kind of tied into what has meaning for you. You have anything you want to add there?
No, yeah, just as you said, it's super forgiving. It's there's not only one right way of doing it. So in my experience, it works the best when we just let go of trying to follow a recipe or follow the right points and the right pressure and the right words, but rather connect to a space of intuition, to a space of feeling, and then go with whatever comes in this moment. Actually, another beautiful side effect, you could say, from EFT tapping, that it helps us to tap and connect with our intuition very deeply. So, so yeah, just an emphasis on what you just said, to let go of this thinking I have to do it a certain way, because
Yes.
that's not what we need here.
Yes, I totally agree with that. You just be okay with trusting the process and just go with it. Have fun. Yeah. So at the beginning and end of the tapping process, we use something called the SUDS, which is the subjective units of distress scale. And the reason we do that is to give us some kind of quantitative measure for the effectiveness of the tapping. So quite often, we can go in and we're not feeling so good and then do the tapping and feeling a bit better, but we don't really know, has the tapping made a difference or was it something else? And so what we do is we give ourselves a number at the beginning and then check in with this number again at the end. So for example, if we're tapping on an emotion, we're feeling anxious, we say, okay, right now on a scale of 0 to 10, I am feeling a 7 level of anxiety, with 0 being none at all and 10 being extremely anxious. And then at the end, we check in again and maybe we've come down to a 4. And of course, ideally, we would like to get down to 0. And generally speaking, it does go down, sometimes not all the way. So then you can think about whether you want to continue tapping. On some people, it goes up initially. And that's usually because they're in some kind of repression or denial slightly. And so when they start to tap, they're actually allowing it. And that process of allowing makes it increase initially. So you should not be too worried about that happening. Just keep tapping. And if you do find yourself very strongly in emotion, you don't even have to speak, just keep tapping until the emotional level comes down. So that's the SUDS at the beginning and the end, just to give you a sense of the effectiveness of the tapping. And then we use the setup statement, and that's on the karate chop point. So even just before we start, we're basically stating the problem statement and giving a positive counterbalance to that. So if we're using anxiety as an example, even though I'm really anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So we state the issue that we're having and that we're still okay with who we are. And that is very important as an opening. And sometimes people react to that. So the statement itself, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. People are like, that's not true. I can't say that. That's too strong for me. And if that's the case, then you just tone it down to something that you are willing to endorse. And so you can just say, I choose to love and accept myself, or I am okay with myself. But just something to counterbalance the the problem statement. Do you have anything to add? Yeah.
No, that's wonderful.
Okay, so sometimes what happens when you're tapping? So of course, the purpose of tapping is to relieve the problem. And so sometimes we notice the energy moving with yawning. So often when I'm tapping with people, they start yawning and they feel a little tired. And I'm always excited when I see that, because it means that something has shifted. Sometimes there are a few tears. Sometimes you might feel tingling in the body or slightly nauseous. Again, it goes away as you tap. I spoke already about your emotion getting bigger initially sometimes, and sometimes you experience resistance to the statement itself, which I spoke of in the setup statement, and that sometimes happens in the stream of consciousness as well. And it's useful to pay attention to that, because it tells you what your inner beliefs are, and this is very important as ideas for what to tap on. So, is this a belief I actually want to hold about myself, or is there something that would serve me better that I would like to have instead? So given that these are possible reactions, I would like to just say also you may experience none of them. So, but just to be aware, it's nothing to worry about if any of those things do come up. Any thoughts?
What I sometimes observe, or people give me as a feedback, is that during the tapping they feel like a warmth to their body, which is the same principle. Like we get some energy moving, we get something moving inside of us. So sometimes that's perceived as like a warmth flowing through the body. And well, generally it's just, the majority of cases, extremely relaxing. So besides the fact that we're working on a very specific topic, which can be an emotion or a situation, it never happened to me that I did EFT with someone and they didn't say, okay, I'm really much more relaxed now. So that's also another of the wonderful side effects, the positive side effects of it, that it really is calming. It calms the nervous system through this stimulation of the meridian points. So it's extremely relaxing, and yeah, maybe that's worth mentioning here.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I absolutely agree. You notice when I sometimes do group tapping, and the whole room, like everybody's body language changes, and they all say they feel lighter and they light up.
Everything is softer
the tension.
and like, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be a part of. So,
yeah.
So I do want to talk about how amazing it is with working with positive intelligence in particular. So we have these saboteurs, we have the judge and the 9 accomplice saboteurs, and they're all stemming from fear, but then also have other emotions coming up to do with hurt, guilt, shame, anger, and frustration, all of those emotions as well. So the power of tapping is that it works on reducing the emotional level, but it also is really great for changing your mindset around those situations and beliefs, and also for tackling particular stories as well, and making kind of separating them from the emotions involved, so that you can look at them without being triggered or without feeling upset anymore, and just be totally objective. And I've used tapping on all 10 of these, and as a very quick and effective method of basically reducing their impact. And Janina did the 6-week program with me, so she's very familiar with the sage and the saboteur. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Why I love this idea of yours to use EFT with the saboteurs is I made the program with you, and at times it can be hard when we have these insights, when we go so deep that we realize, oh, and I have this saboteur, and I do this, and that's a pattern, and that's a blockage, and like, which we all have, right? but EFT, since it always focuses on compassion, love, acceptance, and understanding, so that makes the work with the saboteur so much easier, because if then the judge comes, the inner critic comes, because we still have a certain pattern and this kind of things, it's like the EFT helps us again to tap back into this place of compassion, of understanding, of love. And that even though I have the hyperachiever saboteur, I'm still okay. I still accept myself, which is the space where we can actually heal, where we can actually grow out of this saboteur and not in this state of inner fight. So that's why this idea of yours, it's just brilliant to use EFT on saboteurs.
Thank you. I so appreciate what you just shared, and it just made me think of the whole idea of the PQ rep, and in terms of touch or breathing, or just taking a moment to get into that space. And EFT is the ultimate PQ rep as far as I'm concerned, as it has that centering effect, where you just breathe into it and focus on your touch and your body just for a moment, and it takes you out of the triggered, activated mind and into a space where you can access your sage and switch very quickly, and retrain your neural pathways, which we know that EFT does. So, yeah. Okay, so for those of you who are watching this video and you're saying, well, what are my saboteurs? I have no clue. So the way to find out is to go to positiveintelligence.com and go to the assessment tab and take a very quick free questionnaire, and you will be told what your top saboteurs are. And it just gives you an idea, and you can play with that, and it gives you some great information as to what to expect with those saboteurs. You can see which ones you resonate with, and then you can choose whether or not you want to use EFT with them. So when I'm doing the tapping script for each of these saboteurs, I'm using a principle called borrowed benefits. And basically what this means is that I'm using my stream of consciousness, and sometimes those words may not be the best fit for you, but hopefully some of them are. And so that's the idea behind borrowed benefits. So when you do tapping in a group, even if you're working with one particular individual, if they have an issue that they're dealing with, maybe they were in a car wreck or something like that, and you're tapping on the emotion and the story associated with that. And other people generalize those things, and they can also find themselves having relief for a similar instance in their life where they were stressed and felt out of control. So this is called borrowed benefits, and it's one of the reasons why I use quite a varied stream of consciousness in the recording, so that I can hopefully use some words that you relate with. So as you're listening to the stream of consciousness, you can just pay a little bit of attention. Oh, yes, those words really resonate with me, those ones not so much. And the ones that do resonate with you, they give you an idea of how to continue the tapping by yourself if you wish. And then I just this last thing is something called the tapping tree. So those of you that know a little bit about EFT and tapping will probably know that there's something called the tapping solution, which is something that's been around for more than a decade now. There's a book, and there's an app, and there's an annual worldwide online meetup where they do tapping, and they have this idea of breaking down into the leaves, the branches, the trunk, and the roots. So you can tap on any of these things and make a difference. You can go in with the emotion, identify which emotions you're feeling most strongly right now. It might be fear, it might be sadness, it might be grief. You can tap on the side effects. So if you have a lot of stress, you might be feeling stiffness in your neck, a headache, some stomach upset or something like that. That's the physiology of it. You can tap on the actual story itself, the trunk, the events. So if we take one of the examples from positive intelligence, say you have the pleaser saboteur, and pleasers are often saying yes to doing things for others, even when they're really not that interested in doing them. And so the side effect there might be feeling stressed because there are too many things they've said yes to, and they don't want to say no and don't want to create conflict. And so that makes them feel tense and overwhelmed. And then the branches there are the emotions or conflicting emotions of feeling definitely not wanting to get involved in any conflict, and the terror involved in that, and the terror, oh my gosh, what happens if I say no? So there's a lot of fear in there. And the event itself is the situation. So somebody asked you to do something that you're not that excited about, and then having to go through with that, or having to figure out a polite way to say no and practice those things. And then, of course, the limiting beliefs underneath all of that is this belief that conflict is bad ultimately, and that something awful will happen to you if you do say no and don't do what the other person wants. So EFT tapping can help with all of those things, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so powerful in really reducing your saboteur to a whisper, because you can really, tackle the emotions, tackle the core limiting beliefs around the saboteur, particular stories that you may remember that really depict the saboteur, and where it might be showing up in your body as well. Do you have anything to add there?
That sums it up perfectly. Like an all-round modality that can be adjusted to every person, to every day, to every situation. It could be that the tapping today is different than the tapping tomorrow, because you can just adjust it to every given situation, to every given emotion. And I especially love that you can use it for physical problems too. That as you mentioned, when the stress manifests already physically, it can be for chronic pain even. Like there is no limit in when to use it. And it's so simple. So it's a tool we all should have in our toolbox and just use regularly, because there is not really limitation of when you can use it.
Yes, wonderful tips. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to connect with either of us, this is our website with all our contact information, and we hope very, very much to see you tapping in the future. Thank you so much.
Let's tap.